Now welcome to another lightning response video, where this time the question comes to us from Derek Lopez, who asked, "Hey Thor, I've been wanting to ask you this. Order 66 was a defining moment in Star Wars history, but lately there's been so many Jedi who have survived Order 66, like Ezra, Cal Kestis, Ahsoka, Grogu, and now Baylan Skoll in the upcoming Ahsoka show. Do you think having that many surviving Jedi waters down the gut-punching event and loses its impact of the story? And do you think it makes Yoda's line in Return of the Jedi meaningless when he tells Luke, 'When gone am I, the last of the Jedi will you be'?" Alright, so first of all, as you basically pointed out, we've learned that yes, Baylan Skoll in the upcoming Ahsoka series, played by the late Ray Stevenson, that he's going to be a Jedi who survived Order 66 and went on to become a mercenary. That we learned from the Empire magazine article about the show that leaked online a bit early, and I covered that in a video over on the other channel. Anyway, that makes for not only another Order 66 survivor, but one who wasn't soon thereafter hunted down and destroyed by Darth Vader or the Inquisitors, and who was then even alive during the time period of the original trilogy, where, yes, Yoda says that famous line in Return of the Jedi to Luke.
"Luke, when gone am I, the last of the Jedi will you be?"
And so does all this make that line meaningless and the whole Order 66 scene less impactful? Well, maybe to a small degree, but starting with Order 66 here, it was already a little hard to believe if you really stop to think about it logically and logistically, which you probably don't in the moment or the first time you ever saw that scene. You were just along for the emotional ride, and that amazing John Williams score helped do that. But if you do really think about it, there was virtually no way the clone troopers killed all the remaining Jedi, or even close to it, in one fell swoop like that. No way they killed virtually every single one, save Kenobi and Yoda, of the however many thousands of Jedi were still left at that point in the war. And I mean, there would be various reasons for this, right? Starting with the most obvious one. Not all Jedi were or would have been around clone troopers when the order was initially given by Palpatine. And not all Jedi were even fighting in the war or had a role in it where they would have been by clone troopers, especially not at all times. Heck, just watch Clone Wars, for example. There are plenty of instances where we see Jedi nowhere near clone troopers, even those who are generals and commanders and have their own troops. They're not around them 24/7, if you will. We see Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and plenty of other Jedi taking on all sorts of missions that don't involve the clones, or maybe they're just having a little time off from the war. And so you could actually kind of argue it's a little silly, though sure, very dramatic, to think that at the very moment Order 66 was issued, all, or honestly even most, Jedi just so happened to be with clone troopers at that particular moment in time, and especially in any sort of compromising position, like, say, in the middle of a battle where they were least expecting to have their clone troopers turn on them. Which isn't to say there were circumstances or instances where they would expect that to happen. Part of the beauty of the aforementioned Clone Wars animated series was showing how close most Jedi got to their clones. It showed not only the respect the Jedi had for them, but the loyalty the clones had to the Jedi. Which, in my opinion, all adds to the impact of Order 66, regardless of just how many Jedi they may or may not have killed right away. Not only because you now know of that relationship, you've again seen it in Clone Wars, but because you understand why the Jedi were so caught off guard when it happened, when in theory they should have been able to see it before it happened.
He can see things before they happen. That's why he appears to have such quick reflexes. It's a Jedi trait.
That said, and even though, yes, no doubt plenty of Jedi were indeed caught off guard and killed by their clone troopers before they could even begin to figure out why this might be happening, as we saw in the film and elsewhere now, I still think realistically here, you should expect a lot of Jedi to survive the initial issuing of Order 66 for, again, various reasons, chief among them simply not being around clone troopers, and then also not being in the temple on Coruscant when Anakin showed up with the 501st. And I do mean a lot of Jedi, likely hundreds of them, if not more, would not have been killed right there and then. But I don't think even, say, half of them surviving, which would be a couple thousand or more Jedi, I don't think that would completely or truly diminish what we know are the repercussions of Order 66. It doesn't diminish what that moment represented not only for the Jedi, but for the galaxy on the whole. That was essentially the moment that destroyed the Jedi Order and saw the Empire and Sith solidify their power or hold on the galaxy, even if it didn't exactly mean the end of all the Jedi or even close to it on the individual level. Even still, and though I just argued likely hundreds would survive at the very least if we think about it logically, In the new canon, at least we've heard of what, like maybe 25 to 30 Jedi who have survived Order 66, and that's if we include those who went on to become Inquisitors. And I mean, if only around that many, or maybe a little more, like around 50 or maybe 100 out of the 10,000 we started with, if that's all that survived that first attack, that survived Order 66, that was pretty damn effective overall when you really think about it, the whole war and the outcome of Order 66 afterwards. Not to mention, the more that initially survived Order 66, the more dramatic it makes what Vader did after hunting down and destroying what was left of the Order he was once a part of, to the point where there was, what, like 5 or so Jedi confirmed to still be alive during the time period of the original trilogy, with, sure, the possibility of maybe a few more to be discovered or revealed eventually, or should I say created by future writers. Which then brings us back to Yoda telling Luke, the last of the Jedi will you be after he's gone. And heck, maybe Yoda really and truly thought that to be the case. Maybe he didn't know what had happened to, say, Ezra and Ahsoka. Remember, at this point in time, Ahsoka is completely off the board, doing who knows what after we see her in Rebels. She's descending into the darkness of the Sith Temple on Malachor to do who knows what exactly. As for Ezra, well, rumors say he could be anywhere from some strange part of wild space or the unknown regions to in a whole different galaxy entirely at this time, after we see him, of course, whisked away by Purrgil at the end of the final episode of Rebels. Then there's also Grogu, who, again, we have no clue where he is right now, or at that point in the timeline during Return of the Jedi, and it could be that Yoda doesn't either. And as for Baylan, well, he's not exactly a Jedi anymore, so Yoda wouldn't consider him as such. So anyway, from Yoda's point of view, he may think Luke is indeed the last of the Jedi, or he might be telling Luke exactly what he needs to hear in that moment. He might be conveying to Luke that the only hope for the Jedi Order, of the passing of it to others, and the galaxy on the whole, is for him to defeat Vader and Palpatine, that he's the only one that is capable of this, despite, yeah, some other Jedi still being out there, technically. And so either way, even with Ahsoka, Ezra, and Grogu still out there, this is a dire time for the Jedi. This could easily be the end of them forever if Luke fails. And those words from Yoda to Luke convey that not only to Luke in that moment, but to us, the audience. I mean, even though none of the surviving characters existed yet back then, back when Return of the Jedi was being made, and hence wouldn't be mentioned by Yoda because of that, the scene would indeed be less impactful if Yoda was like, if fail you do, worry not, a backup plan or two I have. And so, in closing here, again, I think it does lessen it all to a small degree, and things would be more dramatic if Luke was literally the one and only Jedi left in the galaxy at that moment. And I certainly don't want it to be revealed when Lucasfilm runs out of ideas and needs more stories, that there was actually tons of Jedi running around doing all sorts of things when Yoda said that. But realistically, it's not too surprising that at least a few of the some 10,000 Jedi there had been 30 years prior had survived. Even if they're just in hiding somewhere and not really partaking in the fight so much, or they're, I don't know, a part of the hidden path and are helping in some other way besides directly fighting the Empire. Well, that's going to be all I got for this time. Now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you think about all this. Is the impact of Order 66 being lessened by all these surviving Jedi? And are Yoda's words to Luke about being the last of the Jedi all but meaningless, as we learned that wasn't exactly true? Or, of course, you can always ask a question for a future lightning response video by starting your comment off by saying, "Hey Thor," in order to get my attention, and then asking away. Either way, do leave those comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.